Meanwhile, next week, India will be hosting U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. And I spoke with former chairman of Microsoft India, Ravi Venkatesan, about the secretary's upcoming visit. And one of the most contentious issues between the two countries has been U.S. immigration reform and its impact on Indian companies in the U.S.
A proposed provision called 50-50, which says companies that have more than 50 employees, so mid-sized and large ones, would have to, have more than half their workforce who are either U.S. citizens or green card holders, etc. And so that would restrict the use of H-1B visas. And that dramatically reduces the flexibility of the outsourcing companies.
So Indian companies based in the U.S. will not be able to hire as many Indian employees to work in the U.S.
They will have to hire many more U.S. nationals and green card holders. And obviously that means that their costs will go up quite dramatically, which means that the cost of their customers will go up as well. And in addition, if all the things carry through, the onus of compliance is as much on the customers. And so it may introduce a huge amount of bureaucracy, which will be problematic.
Well, the U.S. government is obviously doing this to promote more employment in the U.S., right?
That would appear so.
So is there any chance that this would be resolved through this current meeting of John Kerry's?
Well, I hope so. I hope some of the more draconian elements are removed. But I believe that at least some of the companies will see in this crisis an opportunity to move up the value chain, change their business model from renting IQ to creating intellectual property. And eventually, they're going to end up being much, much stronger companies.
Well, let's change our focus from Indian companies in the U.S. to multinationals in India.
Terrific.
And in your recent book, Conquering the Chaos, Win in India, Win Everywhere, you stress that for multinationals doing business in India, it's almost like a litmus test, if you will, for their potential success in other emerging markets. Why do you say that?
See, in the last 3 or 4 years, people have got really concerned about what's happening in India. The economy has slowed down. It's getting more and more bureaucratic, lots of tax hassles, corruption, crony capitalism, bad infrastructure, you name it. So a lot of companies are beginning to say, hey, let me go where it's easier. Let me go to Nigeria, let me go to Indonesia, Myanmar, and flee the chaos. I point out in this book, very contrarian, I take a contrarian point of view, which says, you know what? Chaos is not true of just India. It's a defining feature of all emerging markets.
That a couple of companies have in fact made it there and done so most successfully, such as Volvo, Nokia to name some, Samsung, Cummins. What's been their key to the success in India?
I think there are two keys to really successful companies. One is they're all in. They basically decide that India has a population of 1.2 billion people. It's going to be one of the largest economies in the world. We better be a leader there. It may take much longer than we like, so they don't dither. And what that means is they're willing to make investments in localizing product, distribution, et cetera, take a long-term view. Other companies stick their toe in the water and say, we'll be back when India resembles a developed market. Mm-hmm. I remember a CEO of a food company saying, when more Indians start eating meat, that's when we'll jump in.
Good luck with that, considering
right.
that cow is wholly in India.
In October last year, Tim Cook of Apple says, India, I love that country, but the distribution system is really inefficient.
So what should, firstly, the government in India be doing to create a better environment for multinationals? And how is that different from, say, for example, what the Chinese government is doing?
Well, India is in a very, very fortunate position. Most companies want to come to India, so the government really doesn't have to do much to attract investment. All it has to do is stop scaring it away. Mm-hmm. And what that means is regulatory reforms, particularly in sectors which are closed, like retail and insurance and so forth, making sure that there aren't these crazy things like retroactive amendments of the tax laws. And so these are the things that they need to do. But regardless of whether the government does those things quickly or not, at the level of a firm, you need to go in there and figure out how to deal with these issues and build a vibrant business. And many companies have shown it is possible. Companies like McDonald's, like Cummins, and so forth.